It's been a while since I dropped one of these videos. I think it was January the last time I had a win in the grand race. I've still been playing Motorfest, don't get me wrong, it's just other games have been taking up most of my time, I'm not gonna lie. Warhammer, Forza, Cyberpunk DLC and whatnot. But yes, this is my third win of the grand race. Not the greatest record, I rarely win these, but I will do my best to document a victory when the opportunity arises. I wasn't anticipating this win, so I had to clip it straight from PlayStation, so apologies if the quality looks a little different to before. I usually record with Elgato, and in my opinion that looks better, but hey, I've got the clip so I'll work with it. Let's see how this run went. Now I believe Motorfest went through a visual update making the map look prettier, and I think they've added some new grand races around this time. The track we were given this time was Lahaina, not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but it's a mix of Alpha GP, Street Tier 2 and Racing. The intro footage has already spoiled what vehicles I used, but the cars I went for were the Ivory Tower AGP R07. Forgive me, I'm using this one again. The other Alpha GP cars I have are Red Bull only, and I refuse to use those since we're sticking to non-meta. We've got the Liberty Walk Toyota GR Supra, and lastly the BMW M6 GT3. I'll talk about these two later on, but let's see how the first segment went. Okay, so collision was off for this one, so the Alpha section started smooth for a very short moment, no bashing and crashing, although the ghosting between players does make it a bit trippy sometimes. My smooth racing was short-lived as I kept bumping walls which slowed me down a bit, yet despite that I was still able to hold myself in the top 10 for a while. I always thought it would be harder to win non-collision races because in theory everyone's running their own race, other players are visible but you're on your own road. Don't need to worry about getting rammed whilst going around corners, etc. So realistically it would come down to how good the player is and if they have a superior vehicle. In any case, I have better runs when collision is on compared to off, strangely enough. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure slipstream is still in effect for non-collision races. You know, despite how easy it is to create gaps, I still find myself neck and neck with at least one other player from time to time. But yeah, this first segment was really slow. This is my first time doing this event, and even though I have a map and racing line as guidance, I'm still driving a bit overly cautious. You may have noticed that I've turned ESP off. In my last video, this was suggested by Spooner. Sorry, I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but he has a lot of experience with Motorfest grand races, so I wanted to give it a shot. Essentially, turning ESP off gives more power around corners at the cost of control, so my rear has a higher chance of giving out, but since I generally struggle with keeping up with the pack, turning it off may have been a good idea. The Alpha GP cars are stuck to the road anyway, you have to try really hard to make them spin out. I am liking the new grand races though, it's nice getting a fresh track compared to the ones we've been recycling for the past however long. I didn't buy Motorfest at launch, so I'm not sure how long these grand races were in rotation for, but one would assume they've at least drip fed some over time, especially since it's been 2 years. Coming up to the second segment, I bumped the wall near the end here and decided to burn all my NOS. We're about to change car anyway, so your booster refills, which is always good. For Street Tier 2, I went with the Toyota Supra, a brand that can be considered iconic. I'm not gonna lie, this is my most used car in this tier just purely from an aesthetic view. I love the way this car looks, the way it sounds. I think for me it takes me way back to my childhood of Hot Wheels. When I used to drive them around on the carpet making vroom vroom noises, the overall look of it matched how most of my Hot Wheels looked back then. You know, all black, simple spoiler, slightly widened body, the big bore exhaust. I just like admiring this thing as I drive it. On the downside though, it's not really the best for grand races. Still to this day I haven't seen anyone driving this thing. I've never even seen a player in the top 3 with it either. And then again, I could be biased because I'm not always playing the grand race, so you never know. As a result, this second segment is kinda boring because I didn't really make up much ground. Even though we all have matching perf levels for grand races, the Supra generally feels slow while driving it, like you've always got to have backup NOS after a corner because it takes a while to accelerate. I mean, I did manage to pass what I would believe to be a GT3 RS, but this is where my belief in slipstreaming for ghosted races comes in. I doubt I would have caught up to this player without it. Surprisingly though, the Supra is a recommended vehicle for grand races when I search for it, so maybe it is meta and I'm in the wrong here, I'm not sure. It's just I will never see this car do as many numbers in a lobby like an F40 or the GT3 RS for example. I think what doesn't help is for this race especially, I was being extra careful by trying not to overshoot corners even if the racing line said otherwise. If I bumped a wall, I doubt I'd have a chance of winning, especially now now since I'm still in the top 5.
Barely!
But anyways, on to the last segment, the BMW M6 GT3. I've got a lot of love for this car actually. Back when I played the Crew 2, I'm pretty sure I won this car and I used it for every track event. This thing sounds like a beast, and to me it handles so well. It generally feels like I'm driving one of those Alpha GP cars sometimes. Like with the Supra though, I don't see much of this car, but coincidentally there was someone using it during this event. I think this is the second or third time that I know of, seeing this car in action. I think I've done pretty alright until now. I was holding 4th position and there was a pretty big gap behind me, so it was just a test of who could stay on the road the longest. We had a long straight across a bridge, and as you would expect, I was up against the T50 in 3rd position. Provided slipstream was in effect, that still wasn't enough, and I was barely making any ground on Batu Scorpion, if I said their name correctly. I wasn't sure what the end of this race was looking like, but I was hoping for more twists and turns and sharp corners, since this is where the BMW performs the best. If it was a long straight, I'd have next to no chance. Now I slowed down way too much here. Again, this is me being overly cautious. I thought that was it, but somehow I managed to stay in range of the top 3 and the T50 was the first to lose control. I'm not sure what happened. It seems like too much boost was used and they overshot this slight bend. It looked like they could salvage it, but I guess too much dirt and foliage got in the way. From the map, the arrow was completely sideways, so it's unfortunate given that the race is sort of close to ending. Not too long after this though, another bend was upon us. I managed to make it through okay, but it seems that Thunderstorm, who was in first, hit the wall hard here as their speed was greatly reduced. This put me up into second and it was pretty much a 1-2 battle from here.
Victory.
And there we have it, my 3rd win at the Grand Race. During that last stretch, I'll admit, I think the name's Blowzard's wheel. Blowzard's wheel effects were a bit off-putting with the whole leaves and stuff. As cool as some of those effects are, they can be used as a way to distract players. I mean, it was working on me, a little anyway. But since I was confident in this car's handling, I burnt a bit of NOS on this stretch here so I could get ahead. It wasn't going to take long for the Porsche to catch up, but it seems they grazed the wall on the left. And then on this next bend, there was a little hump that I didn't expect, and it pretty much sent my back left wheel into the air a bit, which in turn made me bump the wall. I'd already reduced my speed beforehand to soften the blows, so in theory I only lost like 10 to 15 miles an hour. However, in Blowzard's case, it seems they hit the wall a little more aggressively, as the arrow on screen looked like it was at a complete hole. Those 2 corners saved me really. If it was a long straight, that Porsche would have dusted me a long time ago. But there we have it, my 3rd win. I'm really happy with this one because I was longing for a victory with the help of these 2 cars especially. Again, the Supra was giving childhood vibes and the BMW was what carried me in the Crew 2, so it was nice carrying it over the finish line this time instead. I think the only downside is the Grand Race doesn't pay as much as it used to anymore. Because I enjoy them so much, I'll still try and get more wins if I can. But yeah, that's all from me. I don't know when I'll be back on Motorfest. This race is a few weeks old, and to be honest with you, it may be a while before I get back into it, but when I do, I'll try and document more Grand Race content for you guys. Even if not all of them are wins, I may show some hard fought losses if it comes to that, but I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been Dre, take care and see you next time.